Hello, everyone. My name is Samir Hamichi. I am from the SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation Adoption team. I am here to speak about using SAP Intelligent RPA for your capital expenditure approval process. So we will just wait a couple of minutes to allow people join. So I will share my screen. Let me just share it again. Yeah. Just another minute and we kick it off. Good. So first of all, welcome to everyone to this webinar. I will show you how to use SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation for your capital expenditure approvals process. So first, what we asked is to do onboarding part. So here is the trial onboarding with SAP Workflow Management and SAP Intelligent RPA. There are a lot of steps, but they are mandatory if you want to succeed to use this use case or to run this use case till the end. Inside, you have a booster that allows you to connect to SAP Workflow Management and SAP Intelligent RPA, creating a role officer and setting up your factory. So what is about this use case? So we have to leverage a workflow capital expenditure so that we have here. I will just zoom it on to show the workflow of this capital expenditure. Usually we receive a capital expenditure through let's say to expend some money, but first I think what I have to do is to share with you the document. Sorry for that. Inside the chat. So here we have, so I share the document inside. This is the first one. All participants, panelists and attendees. And there is also a file, a JSON file that you can use, customize. You can open it with Notepad and put your name and email inside, and we will use it. Just a question from BJ. Can you explain the landscape or architecture of SAP Intelligent RPA? So the document that we shared with you is the onboarding part, the first one that we shared with the link. You should have access to it. So it explains how to run the booster for the workflow subscription, and also how to subscribe to Intelligent RPA. Okay, so it explains all the steps to do in order to have your landscape, and preferably if you run it in the US landscape. So you create your trial and then you subscribe to the booster here, booster for workflow, and then subscribe for Intelligent RPA. When you subscribe to workflow management here, you have the possibility to reuse a package. There is a package that is called Simple Capital Expenditure Process Approval Process. This is the one that we consume. You will consume. I will show you how to consume it in Intelligent RPA. So if you follow the steps for this onboarding, you will be able to run then the document that I sent you in the chat that explains this use case. So the package, this package from the workflow is already done. So set up in your trial. So what we have to do is to make an automation in SAP Intelligent RPA and to call this workflow. So this workflow needs as input a file or a request to be triggered, and you will get this endpoint information from the onboarding. It's just a web service to call, and I will show you how to use it, to use the Intelligent RPA to use this information. This is my trial, so it will be available only for today for you, and then call the capital expenditure process that approves, let's say, the capital expenditure that you want. The JSON file that I sent you, it contains the information for the capital expenditure. Let me show you the structure inside the document. So it's shown up here. So mainly in this webinar, what we will do is reading the JSON file, prepare the payload for our bot to run it, and then call the web service to authenticate using the key and the client ID and secrets, and then posting the CAPEX request. And we will see the result showing the result of the call, just that the call is successful. And then we will see also in the workflow list that our capital expenditure is run. So here, if I look to the JSON file, it looks like this one. So you have to put your name, for example, here, and the email and user ID, and this will be prepared by the bot to be sent to the workflow and then run the workflow. Where can we download the JSON file? Here you see inside the document that I prepared for you, there is prerequisites. One prerequisite is that you have set up your Cloud Factory, the onboarding, and you installed all the on-premise desktop agent. And here you put it in C users public. Of course, if you want to customize it later, it's up to you. This is just, we put it here for facilities, like everyone has the possibility to do it in this place. So to start, we start from the factory settings. So we check the agent connection. After doing the onboarding part, you can check that your agent is connected from your factory. Need the JSON file. Oh, I think I have to do it again. So the JSON file here. And I hope the document also that you will need is here again. So I think I will start doing the steps. You can just follow from the document, and we will see together how we succeed to do it. So once you just check here. Once you subscribe it, you will see that your trials is here. So this is the trial that you succeed to connect. You will see all the services inside, but the most important thing is your factory. Capital expenditure. This is the one that you will have. So we are in the factory, and we need to create. We need to check the agent that is connected. So I think people didn't get the document. I will need to send it again for people join it already now. I think this will not help if I do it all the time. So here it is. So I will just move to the second screen here. So we check that our agent is connected. From my side, it's this one, and it's ready now for to work with. So I will create a test environment. So I go to environments. I will create a new environment. I think still, Kiro, I think we still have a problem. I have to handle this.
Yes, Samir. No problem. You can go ahead. I will download the file and I'll send to them for the new joiners.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I will follow just the steps here, and please, if there is any request, we can handle them later when I finish. And don't mind if there is maybe later I can connect with you and help you to set up everything if you need. But I think we need to just advance explaining the use case, and then we will come back later. Okay, here I will call it, I will resume. I call my environment here, CAPEX request. For example, I add my name, for example. And here you can choose test and dev or product. For now, I just do it for testing. So inside, I will select to add my agent. So I have my agent listed. All the agents connected to the factory as are here. Now I will switch to the project and create the project. I prepared this environment because we need it when we test our use case later, you will be asked for an environment. So here I will do a new project and I will call it CAPEX requests handling. Whatever the name of the project, it's not important. You can call it as you wish. From my side, now I call it like this, and you will have your project created. So the first thing that we have to prepare for our automation, let's say, are environment variables. The environment variables, they are all the variables that you need in your project or automation, but they don't come inside the project. So you will set them inside your environment. They will be available to update them if you want. And these variables will be used by your automations and projects. How to do that? We can go to environment variables here. We start creating the variables one by one. And the first one is the identifier of the workflow. Okay, it's the definition ID of the workflow. And we select which type. Here it's string, and then we do the same as asked here for others. So we have service URL, which is also a string. Client ID with capital C, and here string. We have client secret, and remember, all these are coming from the file that, or the service that you've created on the onboarding, or you will create from the onboarding part. So all this information, we will give them as inputs or to the automation. They come from the environment. Here, the secret code is a password, so it should not be disclosed, but yeah, here it's just for this purpose we have it. The service here, URL or UII URL. It's a string. Now we are done with this part. We close the environment, and then we go to create our first automation. So inside the Cloud Studio, we have different artifacts, what we can create. We have applications, if you want to capture applications with UIs, with user interface, and we have automations to use all the entities that you create, and also like in our case, we don't have any application to monitor, but just calling a web service, we will do it. And other artifacts related to data, processes. Project Pane is the menu for your history or your agent, and user tasks for workflows. Now here we are limited just for the automation. So when you create an automation, it will ask you which agent version you want. If you want the local one, the local that you have in your machine, you choose the local one, or if dedicated for a certain version, you can do it. But usually it's the latest upgraded one. So here I call it CAPEX call, as I think is explained in the document. Yes. And here it's the identifier calculated directly from here, or you can modify it if you want. It's a technical one. Once you create it, you will see that the dependencies that you need are added to your project, and your panel is created. The workflow or the automation here, where you can drag and drop activities. So first, what we have to do, we have to set the input and output for your automation, let's say. And from input outputs, if you use environment variables, you don't have to add them as inputs because they are available in the automation. So in this scope of the environment, you have access to them directly. So what we need in our automation is just the output of the automation. So in our output, we will add the result of the call. So once the call is done to trigger your CAPEX request, you will get this returned. And in the type, we choose any. Any, it means that it's an object. It contains sub items inside. So this is the first one. Then we go to tools. This is the toolbox where you have activities to download or to drag and drop, sorry. So if I do, for example, search for any activity, I will find it here. So the first one is read file. You remember the JSON file that I just sent you in the chat we shared with you. We have to read it, and we have to put here where it is, okay? And the path is, as I told you, where to put it is users and public, okay? And the name is request.json. And of course, this can be used as parameter. Here we hard code it, but it could be an environment variable, for example, from where to take this path and read your requests if you want. And there is many other ways to do it, parameterize it, let's say. So here, what I have to do is also to customize the output of reading the file. Whenever I read the file, here I call it the context of my capital request. So I name it as context, and you see that for each step, it has a number here, and the number refers to also inside the variables, which in where is the context of the variable, from where we get this variable. And we will see that we can use it later in the coming activities. So here, when you finish, you just have to close this and to come back to the tools and also clear the search and search for the next activity, which is the encoding. I will encode my secret code and client ID. So here I add my string, and you will see here either you can put directly a value here or open the editor. This is the editor, expression editor, and inside you will add the variables that you want to use to encode your string. Here I do it with $client ID plus colon, and also here I do with secret, and this secret I have to do it to string. And you can test here if your expression is good or not. And for your information, from here also you have all the variables straight from here. You can choose them also from here. You can also do some functions, regular functions like mat, for example, to generate some numbers, or any of the functions that you want, or to add operators. It's very, very easy, and just with drag and drop. You save your expression here and move to the next one. So we're here, we go to, sorry, I will just modify the output of this, because here it's a result, and here I need it as client info. it doesn't change for technically speaking, but it just makes it easier to understand which variable contains what data inside. So it's just a matter of comprehension. Then I will go to the next one, which is the custom script. So I will just clear everything here, and I do custom script, and it's here. And I will call it generate options token. So if I click here, I can generate options token. You can edit the script either from here or double clicking from here directly. And here you can add to this script inside to this scope. You can add inputs and at the end also add outputs. We will start by the inputs, what we need as inputs. Here we need client info, and it's string. I will need URL as input. And this is a string also. And as output parameter, what I will output from this script, it's options get. And here we have it as any. So it's an object. Then we enter the script here. So mainly what does this is to return a JSON that contains the get, the method. It contains the URL and also response type here as parameter, as you see. We have resolve body, header, and inside the header we have the info, the client info that we will give inside. So basic authorization. This is for this one, and so here we are done with the first object that we will create, starting from the URL that we have as input here, and also the client info, which we get from the string, encoding string that we have here. So we construct this in order to authentify and authenticate and get our authorization with the token. And inside we'll see the call just after it. So if we close everything now, we close the script. And if we click here, you see that we have created two inputs for our script, and they are not filled. So the first one is client info, of course. And the second one is the URL that you have from the environment. And you notice that here, the variables are either prefixed with E, which means environment, they are coming from environment, or with the step number. So it makes it clear that this one is coming from environment and this one is coming from step 2 here. And it outputs this options get that we will use in the next step. So then we go to the next step, which is the call web service. So I will just close this one and search for call web service. Here it is, and this, I will call it just as get. And for the options here, you see that we prepared already the options get that are coming from generate options token here. So then we add also the result. What is the result of my call here is result token. So this is the token that I will use to submit my or to post my call. All this first part is just about authentication, reading the context, preparing it, that we will need it afterwards. But for the 3 steps here, it's just the authentication, using the secret client, the client ID, and sending to get the token. Now we will create a string. Search for string. Here from data types, you can create just one string and give it a value here. So this string creates a string variable, and we give it inside the value. So from here, don't forget the space here. We have space, and we add our token, the token that we get. And inside the token, as it's an object, we need to get access to the token itself. It's like this. And if you test here, we just add our token to bear. I have air in addition here. So bear, I check it. Now it's a string. There is no mismatch of the expression. I save it. And here, instead of my variable here, I have authentication token. So here it's 5. Okay. Auto token. Now we have again to do a custom script after create screen and create a custom script. The custom script here, it's for I have first to create custom script to create the inputs, and I will come back to your edit. Like the first one here, I will have I will need some inputs for the script to use them inside here, and then have also an output of the script to call the post of the request. So here, the first one is the token that we created. We have to give it as input. It's a string. We have service URL. So the service that we will call, it's coming from the service information that I showed you in the beginning. So service URL, it will come from the environment, the variable. I will add a third parameter which is the definition ID of my workflow, the workflow that I will call. It's also a string. The last one is the context. You remember we read the file here. So reading the file, we need this context. So the context is here as a string because it's the file, okay? It's reading from the file. It's not serialized yet. It will look as an object inside this script. So we have to convert it at certain point to an object inside the script that we will write. And as output, we will add options upload. So here, options upload. So this is what we will give to our second call to post. And here, of course, it's it's an object that we would create. Okay. So now what we will give inside the document. So I will start from the input. So here I just copy from the document what I shared with you, and I explain it here. So we have a definition ID. Look, there is a difference here between this ID and this one. This is the input parameter that I get from here, but here it's just an internal variable that or property that is included in the input here. And what I do here is just giving or testing if my definition ID is equal to default, I will replace it by this ID, which is the one used by the package that you downloaded or you use in workflow management. Otherwise, I will give it the definition of your workflow, the one that maybe you create. And also inside, I have a context. And this context, it's coming from reading the file. So we read the file and we pass it as parameter to this. And here, our context is equal to serialization of the context that we get from the file here. So we get it from, we read the file, we give it as parameter to this custom script as context here, and then we serialize it and add it to our input here. This input, we will use it now in the second part of the script to return it and use it in the call. So now, if we look to the second part, this is the return, what I have to return. This is the method. What is the call is a post. The URL service, I will just add what is needed for the call. The service, the URL service URL here, it's coming from the environment as parameter. Here, response is JSON. We don't need anything. Resolve body, nothing. But the header now, it's we have the authorization. It's the token that we've created. Of course, it's coming from the first call web service, and we just add the bear inside as a string. We have the content type is enumeration of JSON. We could also add directly JSON. And last is the input, the most important part for or the business information of the business request or the CAPEX request is the input here. So it's the one that we created here, the name of the workflow that we have, and also the information of the context, the request that you have. If I look, the request, I will show it inside the document. So now I think we are done. now it's time to the option upload. Yeah, let me just check. So if I close this now, I need to give, you see here, there is an error telling me that you are missing the input that you give to the script. I have to choose them. The first one is the authentic, the token. The second is the service URL. It's coming from service URL. I call it, I missed the S here. Let me just correct it very quickly. Edit, you see that I can really update. No, I cannot modify it from here. Okay, never mind. It's the, you got the idea here. So it's, instead of service, you read service URL. I will do it later. So the third one is the definition ID. I will choose it from here. It's also coming from environment variables. And the last one is the context. It's coming from step 1, which is read file here. Last step now, it should be closing this and clearing the custom and calling the web service call. So here I name it generate option upload. I just rename this custom script here. It's a name for the step. It doesn't change the behavior of the script, just for more clarity, what is as generate options upload. Okay, so now I added this call service, call web service, and I call it post here instead of get for the first one. Here we get the token, and here we call the service. And as options, I will take what is generated from this step, which is options upload. The last part is renaming the result here. I will call it, okay, res upload. And then once you have the result inside this one, you have to give it to the automation as an output, because here when you end your automation, remember the first step that we've done is to create this output of the automation. At the end, this is what is returned by the automation. So here it's empty. So now I have just to map the call service here, the result of the call web service, the result to this one. And now I have my automation ended. Result, save, and test. Now I save it, and let's see if I test it. So just let me check my trial here. I have, if you subscribe to go, if you go to the instances and subscriptions, oops. I will come back to it to tell you how I got to this one. This is the cockpit, let's say, for your workflows. You can monitor the workflows instances that you have here. If you follow the steps on the onboarding part, you have downloaded or used the simple capital expenditure here. If you check, you will see that it's used. And if I click in my, let's say, the workflow variants here, you will see the details of your workflow if needed. But here, the idea is just to show you how to check or to monitor the instances. If I click in the instances, you will get here the filtering of your CAPEX requests. If I see, for example, in my history, I will just reset. I have some CAPEX requests that I completed before, but now let's look, for example, this one, I did it at 11:51, but when I run the automation, we will see one capital expenditure appearing here. And here, how to go into the monitor workflows. Inside your trial, you have the instances and subscriptions. It's a little bit slow, yeah. In workflow management application here, you click here, you get into it. And you click just in workflow, monitor workflows. So let's go now and test it. Remember, in first, before creating my automation, I created my environment that I called CAPEX request Samir. So this is mandatory to run your automation. So I choose this one. And here we have the information that we need in order to execute or to run this bot and trigger our automation. And the information here, the definition ID, remember there is default. And if I have any definition ID of a workflow that I develop myself, I can also do it here. And for the service, you remember that I missed service URL, and here it's the mapping is correct. So if I have to do it again or to correct it, I have to delete this one and create another one, but it will be just used inside the workflow the same way. So I will just bring all the information from this the service and copy them into one by one. Let me just check the service URL is here. The client ID is here. And the secret is here. And you will see that the secret is a password, so you don't see it here. And the URL of the service, the URL of the UAI here. I should be able now to test my automation. So if you do it, you will see that the project is generating. And you will see the timeline of the execution side, step by step, reading the file, constructing or encoding our client info, and also calling for getting the token, you see, and the post. And you see that the testing session has successfully ended. If you come here into the end, you will see that there is a result call. And here we will see that we have this information. We don't have all the information, but just saying that the definition ID of our workflow is here, and the status is running. So now if I go back to my CAPEX home, yeah, here, if I go to the monitoring, as I told you before, I will be able to see that there is a capital expenditure that I run straight, yeah, just 1 minute before. It's 3:51, and at 3:50 I handled this request, and in my request I put, this is my name, this is the email, and all the information that I needed, and you see all the information of the workflow. So this, I didn't touch anything, I just consumed some service from workflow management, and I succeed to do the automation starting from the beginning to the end. So this is the part of creating the automation. So testing the automation inside my, no, oops, not this one. Monitor. Capital, yeah, this. Trying to figure out the CAPEX requests. Yeah. Here, again, coming back to my automation, I ended with this one. So the next step from the document leverage is to, after testing, is to create a project pane. So I am just to show you, it's step 344. So as you see here, I succeed to do this step. So I did the test. Now creating a project pane. So the project pane allows us to have some menu for our agent. So I will follow also these steps and continue the journey. So here, the artifact is here. I will call it CAPEX menu. And I will drag and drop the CAPEX call, which is nothing than the automation that I have here. Whatever you create as automations here, they will be shown in this menu, allowing you to just drag and drop and add them into the pane here. So once I created this one, I save. Then I will generate a package. So how to generate a package is in from the main tab of this one. I will just generate package like this. It gives you the possibility to name it or to give a description and generate a package. So if I had some version before, it will give me the possibility to change the version. Otherwise, as you saw, it's the first version of my package, so it didn't need to show any version if it contains only patches or contain minor changes or contains significant changes. So here for my first one, it went directly. And if I go to my packages now inside my factory, the first one that I showed you, I go to packages, I will see my CAPEX requests handling here, side with other projects. So here I have to release it. So this is the version. I control it and I release it. So now it's released, we can deploy it into our environment. If I go to my environment again, the one that I created in purpose, So you remember that I added only my agent to the environment in order to test my packages, or in course of developments, I can use this environment for testing. Now we can add the package inside this environment. So how to do? We can just add from here and select our package and do next. And you will see that I will be asking to give the information for environment variables. The environment variables that we created. Here we have to do the same as in testing. So we have to give one by one the information. So the first one is default, but this time they will be kept for forever. So inside this environment, they will be filled, and all the packages that you have to upload inside this environment will have access to these variables. So it's a nice way to share information in one environment within with many packages and many automations. So I will start from the service URL. The client secret. The URL. Of the endpoint. And last one is the client ID. And it's okay. Now I have one package, it's released and it's without triggers. It means that I don't have any trigger created for this package. As it is, it will not be deployed to any agent because we need either attended or unattended trigger. We need one, so I create one. I check it inside the document again. Yeah. Here I choose this package because I could have many other packages inside the same environment. So for a trigger, I need to specify which package. And you see that for this package, also, when I choose the package, it will be shown the same information for the environment variables, but this time they are already filled once. So I have just the possibility to update them if I need, otherwise they are fine to be used. So here comes the type of the trigger, which type of trigger I want, either an API, so I get a service information like the one for BPM to use, or to use attended, which means that I am in front of the machine, or the user will be in front of the machine to use this this menu with the menu, the project pane that I showed you first, or to schedule it to run in a background or in a server without any need for a user to be in front. From my side here, I need a trigger which is attended. So I will be in front of the machine or the user, the desktop agent, in order to trigger it. Here you have to give a name for your trigger. Let's say management. I do it for capital requests management. And you choose, for example, the times. Let's say, for example, I start from 8 to 12 every day, and then from 2 to 7 or 6, let's say. And if you want to take, again, so like this. So then I choose, for example, the period from the date range, from which date to which date, and then create. As you see here, I have everything more or less set here, at least the mandatory ones that are shown in as warning. We have new features to handle alerts here. We can you can check it out. It's very, very useful also feature that you can use in other use cases. But now it's not, as it's not in this document or in this use case, we don't use it. Time to check our agent. So the idea is to run it. Desktop agent. I have to stop this one and run it again. I think I have it in this second screen. Desktop agent. I have just to share the second screen in order to show you how it will look like. You share this screen. So here I have my agent started. Give it just time. I will choose that it will run in attended mode because my configuration now will change. You have the possibility to choose which mode you want to work with your agent. And once your agent is restarted with attended mode, you will see, give it just time to load, and you will see that you will have different projects shown to you, and you have to choose which one of them you want. And just, I think, assigning, yeah. Here, I have many projects. So here, orders, it's a different one. This is capital expenditure. It's the same project that I did previously. So the one that I created with you is called CAPEX request handling. And if I choose start, you will see that my project, my agent will start with this project and show me the same project pane that I developed just before. You see here, start CAPEX call. And if I look to, let me just show you again here inside login. Not that one. So if I come back to my factory, in projects, not important. No, in monitoring, I will see that I have the jobs that that's what I want. Here, if you remember before, I will run capital expenditure. One moment, yes. It's not this one, but yeah, till today, or maybe. The last one that I ran, it was at 350 and it's here. So you see that the job is successfully run. And now if I run it again from my project here, we will see that we'll have a new job just started right now, 3 seconds ago. So it's at 4.5 and it's 4.5. And this is the CAPEX request. And if I check it, you will see that it's already successful. And it's the same as before. So here, and the difference from the one that I ran before and here, the first one is in test mode. So it doesn't belong to any package before. but it's just triggered from the Cloud Studio. But the second one, we have more information here saying that it comes from this trigger called CAPEX management, and it's coming from this package and so on. If you go, you see more details inside. That's it for, I think, for the document. Let me just check it from here. Yeah, this is the steps how to test it, how to choose the attended mode, and check your start CAPEX call, and that's it. I think I covered more or less all the document and the use case. Let me just come back to this my screen here now, and then maybe look into the chat and questions if there is any, and then we will discuss them. So the web server, I see some questions. Let me just check here and go through one by one in the chat, and then as you more or less they are related to the documents. Sorry for that. Sorry for download file. Can you? There is a question about the service. I will show you in a minute where to find all the information according to the service to call and change the date range. For type of environments, there is 3 types: test, development, and production. You have to, according to development, you start with development, and also testing is development environment, but production, we mainly separate the production environment from the tests and development. So if you, depending on the team that you have, if you have a very, very small team developing bots, so usually they use the dev and test together, and then separate when they deliver to the production directly. If you have a bigger team, I think it's also better to separate the dev and the tests before. The project pane is used for, as you see here, we have a menu that allows you to trigger some automations, and each project that you create has a menu. Let me show you a second one. I stop this one and do a new one. I think I have to share again this screen. So mainly here, from my history, what we call the history or the desktop agent has a menu here. And as you see, I can choose a project, and according to project that I start, I will choose a second one that I didn't choose in the beginning. So I will show you how it looks like. And you see that my project is starting. And when it started, you see that here in my second project, I have different menu. So this is the project pane. So it's a pane where you put some menus that allow you to trigger some application. Here, I will just do a test for you for CAPEX request using user interface. Let's say I have a use case where I use an application or a form, so I can trigger it directly from here. And you see that it's working. I don't know if this project is working well. Yeah, you see that I get the request from this time from Excel file instead of a JSON file, and then it will start my application here. You see, it started in the second screen. I will log in into my application and try to automate the request. As you see here, I put the input and then stop the application. So this is the project pane. What is the difference when we run from Cloud Studio and when we run from Desktop Studio? They are just different frameworks or development. The first one is the IDE, the Desktop Studio. It's the legacy now. We used to use it to create our bots, and now we created the Cloud Studio, which is much more better from the user experience perspective, and also from let's say the development, because it allows you to work with a low code, no code approach. So as you saw from the experience that we had, we didn't write a lot of code. So we did some customization of JSON files and in the custom code, but it's very easy for anyone that are not developer to use it. The Cloud Studio, the Desktop Studio, has many challenges regarding the merging code and the generation of the code and customization and so on. And also, yeah, you run it straight from the web browser, and the Desktop Studio, you need to install it as on-premise component. So this is about the differences between Desktop Studio and Cloud Studio. How do we move to production environment? So the production environment, it is it's the same way. The package one, whenever you test it, you saw that the package is not related to the environment at the beginning. So you deploy it in one environment to test it, and if it works, there is no bugs, it's tested, it's good, you can just go to the production environment, a second environment that's called production. You import the same package, you do the same settings, and it will work the same. So the same package could be deployed to a dev environment first, test environment, and then production. So if you find some bugs, for example, in test environment, so you have to go to the development phase, change things, and then deploy it again with a new version, and then use it. There is, let me just go from dev environment. How can we wait for 1 minute or 2 minutes post, enter any input? There is a wait. We have activity called wait. You can give it just time that you want to wait, but most of the developments or the activities are running asynchronously. So asynchronicity is really well handled. Most of the activities are running asynchronously, and that's really the good thing in automations. Or SAP Intelligent RPA, it's the basis of the framework is asynchronous. There is a question about desktop on-premise. Is it compatible with Mac systems? No, unfortunately not. And the reason is, maybe from the legacy first, because at the time, the product was created, most of the clients are using Windows systems and work like that. And now for the Cloud Studio, you can open it and do some tasks on the Mac in Chrome or Edge, but you cannot just test because the desktop agent still remains on-premise only on Windows machines. Do you have any option to speak to me? I think yeah, there is. I think we can find my details within SAP channels. We have a community. We have regular calls with partners. With yeah, or in LinkedIn, you can find myself also if needed for later. We can discuss. Are projects created using desktop 1.0 compatible with version 2.0? If not, what's the remediation process? Here, desktop studio projects or 1.0 projects are still running. You can run them in our factory, and the agent 2.0 runs the 1.0 project. You have just to understand that it's a different framework. So you have only one project at a time for an agent, as you saw here, for example. I can run only one project at a time. From here, I can stop one project and start another project. The agent is able to work with both versions, 1.0 or 2.0, but you cannot run at the same time in one project, 1.0 and 2.0. So you have to separate. We have this separation. We are working on ways how to, I don't say migrate, but yeah, how to move, let's say, the projects from 1.0 to 2.0, at least to have all the features that we used to have in 1.0 and seamlessly how to migrate them to 2.0. Yeah, the modifications. I think as the paradigm is different. So if you look, for example, for 1.0, how we capture the applications and how we declare elements and all these entities in 1.0 and 2.0, they are different frameworks, so it's hard to reuse it as it is, but we are working for some tools at least to reuse most of them, to not recreate everything from scratch, but that's work in progress. And I don't know exactly what is the format for later, how to move really all the projects, but the most, I think, from my perspective, I've been using the desktop studio for a long time, and I switched very easily to 2.0 because I have the paradigm in my head, and it's very easy to, when you find feature parity, when you look, for example, for what is existing in desktop studio and what we have now in Cloud Studio, the move is more or less easy. How can we open the app from desktop, like SAP GUI or Chrome? Yeah, it's possible. So any application has possibility to start it. So if you look into the projects, let me just show maybe here. Inside, let me open one project. You have the activities for that. Capital CAPEX management. So the answer is yes, you can open any kind of application, either web application in Chrome or in Edge or other. Let me just the chat. Yes, here, if I look, for example, here, start application, you see, you can start application and then give it the name of the application that you want. And here, for example, I have CAPEX application that I CAPEX here. The one that I showed you before, we have, for example, here an application called CAPEX with the home page and so on. So I can just drag and drop the this activity and choose the CAPEX as you see here, and it will work. Can we still use Desktop Studio for bot creation or only Cloud Studio? Yeah, you can use it, but as I told you, it's just for legacy and it's not enhanced, let's say. It's kept for supporting our clients because they have many projects already in 1.0. So the Desktop Studio is still there when you install in 2.0. It's also shipped for a few years, I guess, maybe 2 or 3, but yeah, still. As I told you, the SAP GUI, for example, you have to capture it first. Vijay, you asked how do we open the SAP GUI Chrome. I think we have, my recommendation is to look for the Open SAP course. I think it's very, very complete because we covered all these connectors. You will see how to capture SAP GUI application and how to start. The start is the same. The one that I showed you now is the same. So you have just to drag and drop the activity and it will start. For the Chrome, when you start a page or application, you can say which navigator you want to use. Let me just show you here how I did it. Have one automation with UIs. Start page, and you see here the navigator. When you start your application, you have the URL, and if you want to start it as app, and you have here choice. You have either Chrome, Edge, Internet Explorer, Firefox. I choose from my side, I choose Chrome directly. So you see it's just an activity that opens a web page and you give it a navigator. The URL, either you specify it or it's taken directly from the application that you capture. If you look, for example, from each page that you capture, you have the URL embedded or captured directly. So the agent is able to recognize this URL if you don't give it, but the choice for the navigator is done there. The GUI, it's the same. When you start the application GUI, when you capture it, I don't have it here in mine, but whenever you capture a new application, you create a new application here, you capture it, and then it will start automatically. When you do start application, you choose the sub GUI application, it will start automatically. And then you have to handle just the logins and choose the server if you want, but all this is handled. And very good examples are in the store. Maybe one thing that I didn't talk about is the store. You can explore many use cases here and related to business content or just learnings if you want. From the learnings, you will find many good examples to learn. They have documentations. You can just download them and go through them. If you go to business content, you will find that we have a lot of use cases using either S4HANA or SAP GUI, or what we call ECC. I think we almost covered all the questions. If not, please, share again any questions that you want or any remark if they are. I stop sharing my screen. I think we there is a new question about the future. We have the official roadmap. In mind, what I have is related to recording applications instead of, for example, capturing applications page by page or screen by screen and declaring them. So we have what we call a recorder. We had already GA for general availability for SAP Web GUI, so the application in Web GUI, and the Win GUI is coming. So this is really among the big enhancement, let's say, for the solution. There is also, I think, at the long run, what we call the cloud agent. Now, right now, the agent, as you see here, is running only on Windows machine on-premise. But the idea is to have the same kind of agent running in the browser. So we will be free from, for example, the platform. If you need just to run in the cloud applications in web, for example, without taking into account if it's a Mac or a Linux or any other platform, it should be very helpful. This is maybe just the big ideas about what we are working with. And if we look for with let's say the BTP, the business technology platform, we are working with the colleagues from SAP Intelligent RPA, but not only with our BPM, for example, teams, and it's what we call the BPI or business process insight and improvements and intelligence in general. So this making all this experience of business processes enhanced better. This is really also in the bigger scope of SAP. But from the SAP Intelligent RPA, we have enhancements, the small enhancement by maybe I didn't mention. I will maybe share with you a link to our, let's say, jump page, where you can find many informations, and community also, where you can find and exchange with our community. So first one is the jump page. And also the community link, where you can find a lot of assets inside. Just I have a question about the jump page. I think it's just upon request. If you, for like the community, like the onboarding document that I gave you, you can just ask to join, and then you will have access and to the public part at least, and exchange with our community also. The last link I gave you, you can find many assets and many also links that you have to use. So I think we don't have any more questions. One quick question, yes. What you presented, can we interact with SAP ECC? Yes, SAP ECC 6, I understand it, but from EHP 5, I don't have the knowledge of it. Sorry if it's obvious for you, but SAP ECC, yes. We have a connector specific for SAP ECC, or what we call SAP GUI from our language or specific language inside the SAP Intelligent RPA. So we can monitor SAP ECC. Again, inside the store, if you succeed to onboard on the trial, just go and browse the content. You will find many examples of how to use. And if there is really questions, specific questions or technical questions, you can also ask them inside the community. Yeah, it's going through SAP GUI. You are welcome. So give chance for a last question if there is any, otherwise we can. Okay, thank you. Thank you again for joining. I hope that this was helpful for you and you learned from what I shared with you. Again, if there is any let's say issues or any questions that you want, please come to the community. We are working with our team together to answer your questions. We can get in touch there, or from also social media. I am in LinkedIn with my name, so you can get in touch and we can continue maybe to dig for the future. Yeah. Vijay Sharma, I don't understand. You have access to the JAM, but not this group. What group do you mean? I think you have to ask it directly inside the link that I gave you, and they will accept you at certain point to join. But otherwise, I will check it later with the team. I think there is a last question for the video once done. I think they will be shared at certain point. It's not from my side. The organizers, I think, will share them, but yeah, it's not from my side, I guess. Well, I think we are already done. Yeah, Kiro. Yeah, thank you, Kiro. Will be shared by the organizer as soon as possible. Yeah, I think we arrived to the end of the session. Many thanks again for all of you, for the organizers. Thank you, Kiro, for moderating the session. Hand it over to you. Goodbye. Thank you.